Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us on the program today. As mentioned, elementary education pioneer Ed Rickers is with us on the show. Ed is the founder of the company that publishes Studies Weekly, America's next textbook. Ed, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Glad to be here.
You know, I love what you're doing, and we've got plenty of time to talk about it. If I would have had that going through school, it would have been a lot more enjoyable, probably would have learned a lot more, and I think the kids, as they went through school, would have as well. Before we really start talking about what's all in there and how you're getting it out to literally all 50 states right now, let's go back and talk about the beginning, because you really have your father-in-law to thank for all of this.
Absolutely. I married the right girl for a lot of reasons. And I didn't know that I was also marrying my career. But Dad had a good idea. There's an old saying, necessity is the mother of invention. And back in 1984, after having taught fifth grade for about 12 years, he was given the assignment to teach state history the next year. And most teachers were just in the habit of pulling all that together because the large publishers had never made a textbook for the state history. And so he was thinking about that. How can I do this next year? And he's a very creative man and is entrepreneurial. And in his former life before teaching, he was a graphic designer. And you put all that together, and he was sitting in the teacher's lounge one day, and he picked up a weekly reader, which has been published since, 1901. And the light bulb went off. He said, you know, what we need is just a weekly reader that's all about our state. And so he took the traditional content that's usually found only in textbooks, and he put that in a newspaper format back in 1984. And so it was a big hit, and about half the state was using it, and he did that for 12 years. And then I got involved in 1996. I founded American Legacy Publishing with the goal of sharing Dad's innovation nationwide, and we've done that. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of work.
Well, what's interesting is you have the textbooks. A lot of school districts, because of the expense, will keep them. We pick them up. We may be third, fourth, fifth, sixth hand by the time it gets to us or gets to our kids. You know, the pages are gone, scribble, graffiti, that type of thing in there. What you're talking about is basically a magazine format, which the kids really love.
They do. They can write in it. They can. You know, and that's a good study habit to be able to write in there and highlight words that they're required to learn. They take ownership. It's theirs. They can take it home. If they lose it, it's no big deal. And it also gets the parents involved, which is key. All the studies show and all the data shows that the achievement goes up dramatically when parents get involved. And so that magazine, which is beautifully illustrated, talking about your state history or American history, is sitting there on the table, and Dad walks by. What are you doing here? You know, and pretty soon you've got Dad reading that, talking about history, the parents reading it. And so I've been to PTA meetings where the moms have said, you know, for the first time, this is the first time ever that my husband has been involved with the kids' homework with Studies Weekly. So yeah, it's been great.
Ed Rickers is our guest on This Week in America. We're talking about Studies Weekly. The website is studiesweekly.com. A lot of great information on the website. You can actually go in, see where it's available in your state. You can get free samples. Just go to the website, studiesweekly.com. Let's talk about one of the problems I just mentioned with textbooks is it takes so long. And I think in social studies, you were talking about an average cost of $70. A lot of school districts, a lot of school districts will ride this out for a decade or so before they replace it. Basically, you can make changes at any time, right? I mean, you can swiftly make changes in the format you're using, which is the magazine.
Yeah, and I need to emphasize that most of the content doesn't change from year to year. It's not like a textbook. Well, it's more like a textbook than it is a magazine. People think of a magazine as something that just has to change every year. Well, it doesn't have to. And but it does give us the opportunity to update it and keep it from becoming obsolete. And so schools can get our magazines for 13 years per student for the same cost as one textbook. And we get to update it every year. So, and it eliminates a lot of problems for the schools.
You've been doing this for a number of years, as you mentioned. What response do you get from teachers, parents, and students?
Well, teachers love it because it saves them a lot of prep time. That's the most common comment that I get when I'm out. And I've interviewed thousands of teachers, done a lot of traveling for the company. And that's the thing that they say the most is it just makes it so much easier to teach these subjects. And parents, I touched on that a little bit. We get letters from parents occasionally saying how much their kids enjoy it, and usually the parents are writing to us to get the answers to the crossword puzzle or something like that. They're stuck on it, so we'll answer that. And they always include a nice compliment. Students, one day I had the phone ring, and it was a student. And he said, I just want to talk to the person that's in charge of making Florida Studies Weekly. And I said, well, you've reached him. And he said, I just want to thank you. This is an awesome magazine. And I've got this 10-year-old on the phone with me. And I want to see this kid elected to be president someday because he was so articulate. And I said, now, is this a class assignment? Did your teacher assign you to call me up and tell me that or write me a letter? And he said, oh, no, sir, no, I just think it's cool. This is the funnest part of my day at school. So, yeah, we get good response.
What a compliment. You actually made learning fun for him. He was actually enjoying it and probably looking forward to studying it and reading it each day.
Absolutely. And I've received many letters like that, or mostly letters. He's the only one that ever called me up. But we received quite a bit of fan mail.
The website is studiesweekly.com. I want to talk about Common Core and how this fits in with all the testing and everything that's going on in the country now. But before that, let's talk a little bit about the basic format. What courses are available in Studies Weekly?
Well, like I said earlier, we started with the state history, and typically that's fourth grade. There's a few exceptions, like in South Carolina and Georgia and Iowa, that teach state history in a different grade level. So we have that. But we've branched out. We have about 4 or 5 different American history magazines that cover the common standards. And then we have, so basically K through 6 social studies. 6th grade is ancient history or modern world history. And we have 2 different magazines to choose from there. And then we also have kindergarten through 6th grade science studies weekly. And science is a great topic that lends itself to this format as well.
Studies Weekly, studiesweekly.com is the website. You can get all the information on that there. And I mentioned Common Core, and that's something that's going all across the country. How do you fit in meeting those requirements?
Well, I'm excited about Common Core, and just to give you a little background, I want to talk about No Child Left Behind Act for just a second. That came out in 2001, and that act basically made it required to have state testing on math and reading. And it also required that the scores increase every year. It's called AYP, which stands for Adequate Yearly Progress, but I always say Adequate Yearly Pain, because that's what it is to the teachers.
Exactly, yes.
Anyway, that puts so much pressure on the teachers that social studies and science has pretty much been crowded out of the curriculum. Teachers are great at using fiction, and parents love fiction. That's what the students want to learn the most. But when you think about it, as adults, the thing that we read the most is informational text. And that's where Common Core comes in. Because with Common Core, they're required that 50% of the reading material that a student has to be informational text now. Now, they've been ignoring social studies, which is required by law to teach, but they've been ignoring that requirement because it's not state tested. Now that state testing is going to continue with Common Core, and they have this component that they need. So I applaud Common Core because it is bringing in social studies. I don't mean to make any enemies of teachers. I know a lot of teachers don't like Common Core, and the state testing is debatable. I'm not in favor of the testing, but the Common Core is bringing back social studies into the curriculum, which is a good thing.
And I know you've done some studies on actually the benefit of especially young students going through social studies and learning this.
Yes, absolutely. We have we did a study in South Carolina, and that's the state that probably uses our materials the most. We have 82% of the 3rd grade students in that state that use South Carolina Studies Weekly. And so the nice thing about South Carolina also is they have a state test on social studies. And so back in 2002, they made it. The legislation there came out that it was required to teach social studies and science as well as math and reading. And so we quickly shot up to where 75–80% of the schools were using that. So over a 4-year period, we looked at the state scores of those students who had our product versus all the other products. And the Studies Weekly schools on average had 6% more students proficient in social studies than the schools that didn't have Studies Weekly. And that was 84,000 kids that we tracked over a 4-year period.
Studiesweekly.com is the website. Ed Rickers, our guest on the program today. Studiesweekly.com. Again, the website, get all the information there. You can check out what's available in your state. You can sign up and get some free samples of the product. It's America's new textbook. Let's talk a little bit about where you're going with this, because it seems to be expanding. I'm reading that you're in all 50 states now.
Yes, we're in all 50 states, and we have a map on our computer, on our website. Actually, this is an internal map, but it has a dot for every county in America that has that. I wish I could show that to you, and I could send you a picture of that. But anyway, it's just literally just covers the whole country. And we're in 20% of schools nationwide. And so just virtually every school district has some Studies Weekly in it.
If somebody is listening and they're interested, but they do homeschooling, I know you have that available for parents as well.
Oh, absolutely. We love homeschoolers, and there's thousands of homeschools that use this as well. They can get, where the classroom price, they get it for about $5 per student. I think the homeschoolers end up paying about $10, which is, no big deal. But for $10, you get a year's worth of solid curriculum that's just like a textbook.
The content is so interesting. I am looking, and it's talking about what is the national debt. I'm thinking, I've never really had it explained like that before. Now I fully understand what's there. So adults should be looking at this too. What does the president do? What does the vice president do? And I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. The content is excellent. How difficult was that in the beginning to really meet the strict content requirements that you wanted for the publication?
Well, at first, we just followed my father-in-law's pattern. He kind of outlined that for us, and we started doing that in each state, and he got it right on. That was actually before the standards movement, but it's been very helpful to have state standards, because we just go onto the state website and download the standards, and then our professional teachers, we have over 100 years of teaching experience, classroom experience in our editorial department, and they just outline the curriculum based on those standards, and then our writers write to that framework, and then our illustrators. We have 90 publications, so they've got a lot of practice at it, and the publications, they come out great. But it has been challenging over the years to keep up with that, especially when, literally we keep track of the state standards in all 50 states, and those correlations are pretty much at least probably 85% of the correlations, K through 6 for science and social studies, are up to date on our website. And that's 750 correlations that we're tracking.
Now, so you lay everything out for the teachers as well. As I understand, when they get quarterly, they get their Studies Weekly, and they've got the lesson plan, and everything is in there for the teachers.
Exactly. Yeah, we want to make it so easy that the teacher, they don't have to do the traditional filtering. It's like a reflex. When a teacher gets a textbook or any instructional material, it's a reflex where they start opening it and figuring out what they can skip, what they can cover, because it's a given that there's too much material there to cover in a school year. And we took that work away. We had actual teachers, award-winning teachers, go through and do that work. So with Social Studies Weekly, they just pass it out, and we have discussion questions on every article that are analyzed for rigor and relevance, Marzano's framework. We have, it's all Common Core. We have assessments for every article, and there's writing prompts, there's classroom activities, just everything. There's probably about 4 or 5 worksheets for each weekly unit that the teacher she can use all of them or just one of them. She can spend 10 minutes a day on social studies and cover the whole curriculum, or spend an hour a day. It just depends on the teacher.
You are the face of Studies Weekly, and you're out and you're speaking to teachers, you're speaking to boards of education on an ongoing basis. What is their reaction once you really start getting into? I'm sure they have all these questions, and you've got all the answers. What's their reaction when they feel like, this is a little unconventional for what we've done for the last 100 years in teaching, but I like this concept, and economically, it makes a lot of sense for us.
Yeah. Well, we've had a good reception. Now, we've applied actually for state adoption, and we've achieved that in 9 states. There's only a dozen or so states that have state textbook adoption processes, and we have a good track record. We have 9 out of those states that have adopted it. And then what that does is it puts us in front of the district curriculum people, because they won't even invite you into their office or to give a presentation unless you're on that state adopted list. And so, well, in Florida, we went there, and last year it was state adopted for the second time, and we gave presentations in most of the districts, and we had 21% of the student population of Florida on our program now. And so, and that roughly half of the districts adopted us that we presented to. The ones that don't adopt us, I think maybe we're still a little too new. They're worried. When you start getting a lot of zeros behind those purchases, it's a committee decision, and everybody's nervous. They want to make sure, and nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, right? And that kind of applies with McGraw-Hill and Pearson, So there's traditionalists that say, we've got to have that textbook. Teachers have got to have that textbook. There's not enough resources here. So we hear that, and then we hear the other side that says, no, this covers everything. It covers the standards, and because the teachers don't have to do all this extra work, they'll actually get through it. And so I hope I answered your question.
Well, you did, and we've got about 30 seconds left in the program. I'm sure there are people listening that are parents that would like to find out more, possibly school teachers who would like to find out more, and administrators and board members. If they go to the website studiesweekly.com, and I've said this a couple times, but what they basically can get all the information they need to get the process started to at least have a conversation with you.
Exactly. If somebody just wants to get a sample so they can show the principal or the PTA president, that's awesome. We'll send them to anyone. The samples are about this thick. They come in a big envelope where you'll get a lot of samples. And it's just studiesweekly.com. Pull up your state and then just choose a grade level. And you can actually see all the content right there online. But go ahead and order the sample. We'd love to send that out.
Ed Rickers has been our guest on This Week in America. He will be back on the program. In fact, we didn't even get a chance to talk about Ed's airplane that he uses to fly around the country. He's very passionate about this. He's going to be in our area, and we'll have to sit down and talk a little bit more about the project. We're talking about Studies Weekly, America's new textbook. Ed Rickers, elementary education pioneer, is with us on the program, founder of the company that publishes Studies Weekly, America's new best textbook. Ed, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Looking forward to having you when you fly in.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that very much. It's getting closer, just about a month away. It'll be fun.
We will get together, and the website, once again, is studiesweekly.com. And, of course, more at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You can log on, link on to Ed's website, and get all the information. You're listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.